You know, the reason I still do what we're doing this weekend, because this is a lot of energy, a lot of effort. I found this out last night on concerts. I don't have to plan this much, but I got all these artists,
Yeah.
and I want to make sure they all have a good whack at it. But the bottom line for me is, with all this singing and with casual talking and trying to connect the dots the whole weekend, and a couple good, very good speakers, that maybe, just maybe, in this crazy, confused world as it is today, we don't have to read the headlines, because they'll be just as bad tomorrow.
That's right.
And they were just as bad when Jesus was born. So, I mean, nothing changes there. But the only thing that drives me, really, to get up and still do it at this age, is the Jerry Reed kind of stories. That if it doesn't make sense for people like that, we've got email from people who have said basically that the best compliment I could get was an old truck driver who said, "You Bill Gaither," he wouldn't even look at me. "You Bill Gaither," and I said, "Yeah, good." I watch you on Saturday nights. And he didn't want to let me know that he was grooming or he thought I was a celebrity or anything. He just simply said, "I watch this show." Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not religious or anything. To which I said, "Neither am I. And neither is the person we sing about." In fact, they crucified him because he was not religious enough.
Right.
You know, that
Yeah.
is one of the driving forces that keeps me doing what I do. Because if it doesn't make sense to that guy who's out there, that's hard work. Driving those hard roads every day, trying to keep his mind clear of all the clutter and stuff that can happen for a guy who's traveling that much.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Last week I was in Wooster, Ohio, at a downtown Methodist church, beautiful place, but it was in Wooster, Ohio. At this stage, I'm not looking for trips to Wooster, Ohio.
Yeah.
But I went. I was invited, and I love the way the invitation came. And it's like, okay, I'm going up to Wooster, see what's going on in Wooster. Jeff Taylor went with me. The lady that was sponsoring this thing, that was bringing me in, she was just full of the welcome of God. And the place was great. I love a great old sanctuary that's designed for singing, and the people, the sound man, everybody just put out this great big welcome mat. And I realized religion's not ruling the day here. The love of God's ruling the day here, And so it was such an easy place to move into and then have just really almost like a little revival, and it was just us, that audience turning into a congregation, us being the song leaders. I mean, an hour and a half flew by. We had such a great time. And it was the work of the Spirit, working through us. But I think it all started with the fact that we didn't think for a minute that we were walking into some religiously uptight situation. What we were walking into was this open, welcome place that said, "Come in here and do what you do, and let us enjoy it," So, if it weren't those kinds of places, I would have quit doing this a long time ago.
Remember, you were in Central Park with Billy Graham.
Yeah.
With what, 80, 100,000 people?
250,000.
250,000.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, I was petrified.
And that's good. And I'm not putting that down because we have done some of those major crusades too. But at the same time, how many were at the Wooster concert?
Oh, maybe 300, which is a big crowd for me.
Yeah.
And it kind of felt, this church maybe held 500 at the most. So it looked nice and full, especially on the bottom. But there were a few people in the balcony. I love the look of it. It just...
But the beauty of what you do, though, and I'm not blowing smoke at you, but the beauty of what you do is basically you're so self-contained with the guitar and with Jeff there with this thing. And you don't even really, did you use a house set, a PA set?
Mm-hmm. I think they had maybe brought in a little sound system because, it was an old sanctuary. It was probably one of these places that they've got, one microphone for the speaker, and that was it. So they had brought in, but it was a small system, and the guy who ran it expertly. But you're right, it was an intimacy that I longed for, that I didn't feel in Central Park with Billy Graham.
Yeah, you were just praying that all the technology was working and that somehow this little harmonica was getting out there.
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking any of it.
Right.
But I'm saying, you know what? We spent, I spent an hour with Buck Rambo about a month or two before he died. And we were talking we were talking about our lives, about our professional lives. Very little of it was spent on the big crowds. And I'm not knocking big crowds because we're going to have a big crowd this weekend here in Gatlinburg. It was spent on nights or times when God broke through. One of those times when God showed up.
Right.
And usually it was a smaller group of people. And I'm not saying small is better or anything, but I'm simply saying that you keep doing what you're doing when you feel that connection.
Right. No, yeah, because I've been in small situations where you could feel like it was like breaking through a sheet of ice or something. You know, it was like it was so uptight. People were being so religious or whatever that they couldn't let their guard down long enough to enjoy a song or hear a joke. Those places, thankfully, are few and far between. Because usually I think people really want to be brought to a place where they can experience some freedom and lightness. And y'all did that. I remember when I first started going out with you, I did not have a clue about how do you perform to a religious crowd or a Christian audience. I mean, all my training was as an entertainer. You know, I've been with Jerry Reed for 4 years, and before that, I've been playing bars and taverns and stuff throughout Georgia and South Carolina. That was all I had to go on, and I was petrified. But I was going out. I was on your stage, Yours and Gloria stage, and it was the vocal band, the trio, the band, and I just hid back there and played my little harmonica, and you would bring me out, and I would do my 1 or 2 songs, and I was so glad when it was over and I could go back and sit with the band again. But I watched you, and I realized, gosh, Bill has a lot of the same training I do. He loves to help people have a good time.
Are you guys doing okay with some more coffee, or?
Yeah, well,
I would love a little more coffee, thanks.
I'm fine.
There couldn't have been a better place for me to make that transition. You know, from a place of honky tonks to a place of what seemed to me to be maybe it was going to be so religious and stilted that I didn't know how to operate. And you showed me that no, these are people just like the ones that they're just people, and they want to have a good time.
I'm okay.
They want to laugh in the same way that you do. So help that happen, and then everything else will fall
Are
in
you
place.
still working on this?
Yeah, I'm okay. Hey, thanks, Sam.
But it was I'm really thankful that God led me to you.
This weekend is hard to explain to people. Family Fest and the Smokies. It's not the best building in the world. It's this long, is that rectangular building? Not the best building in the world. But something happens in that room
I know.
every time. And we're going to start tonight. And we're going to start out with prayer. And we're going to anoint the place. Pray God will bless the place. And by the end of the weekend, when we've sung Rocky Top and done Orange Blossom Special, and hey, it's good to be back home again. And all this combination of secular and spiritual, godly, to me it's all godly. And in times of tears, times of what I call holy hilarity, holy humor, and crazy stuff, laughing at us, laughing at old age, and the combination of the mountains, the combination of these wonderful pancake houses with wonderful breakfast, and people having a good time, it works.
And
for
don't you
some-
think too? There's something has to do with coming back to the same place year after year. There's a familiarity that starts to work. I remember we did praise gatherings every year, and we did them in the same space in that convention center in the middle of Indianapolis. You got a sense that there were a lot of these people that were returning year after year. There were always some newcomers, and that there were a lot of people that just were coming back just like it was a revival week. And I mean, this past week in Franklin, Tennessee, I was with our good friend Solveig.
She's a sweetheart.
She's a sweetheart. She sends her love, by the way. And we were in this little restaurant called Puckett's, playing to a dinner crowd. And she had she had asked me if I'd be a part of this evening because 36 Norwegians were coming
On their way to here.
And they had the front tables, and the place was packed. It was, packed. There was still maybe 150 people in there. Jeff was with us. We had a ball, and these Norwegians were there. But I could sense right away. I said, "Oh yeah, these are the people that for the last several years have been coming to Family Fest." And when they were leaving, they were all, "See you in 2 days in Gatlinburg." It was awesome. But you get that sense. I get that sense every year at Family Fest that there's a lot of returnees that are glad to be back, and you feel this anticipation. It's almost hard to mess that up, Bill.
If you've enjoyed this video, click the subscribe button to get the latest content and check out the other great clips on the Gaither Music TV channel.